Hello, everybody. This is Joe the Lawyer. We got a good one tonight. I've worked on this for a while over the last couple of days of my vacation. Yeah, this is how geeks spend their vacation, by the way. So, I'm going to talk about cults and secret societies. What I do in my game with them, they're really fun. I'm kind of a conspiracy theory guy. I like to watch all those YouTube shows, and I get into this stuff back in the day when it was like In Search Of. That gives you an idea of my age, right? Leonard Nimoy talking about Bigfoot and aliens and all that kind of stuff, right? I was hooked when I was a little kid, and I just kept on going. Now with YouTube, forget about it. But anyway, I love reading about stuff, listening to things about like the Freemasons, the Illuminati, and the Bilderbergs and all that thing, which probably just got me banned up on somebody's hit list, by the way. But anyway, so I figured I'd get into that now. How I implement that sort of thing in my game. All right. So, but before we jump in, please do me a favor. I'm trying to get some money for charity, get some more subscribers for myself. Me and Eric Tankar got a little friendly bet going. Whoever gets the 5,000 subs fast soonest, the other guy's got to give them $100 to their favorite charity and buy them a fancy dinner. So subscribe. All right. Please, if you could, hit the like button and spread it out and throw a comment out there. Okay. Now, let's get to it. Now, you guys all, unless you're living under a rock, you must have heard of things like, Freemasons, secret societies, and, if nothing else, the deep state, for God's sakes, right? Nowadays. So all that stuff, whether you believe it or not, who cares? But I like to use the sort of the principles, that I get out of understanding these things or trying to understand these things and how they work and implement that sort of thing into my games. Now, they're not, and I'm not the first one certainly to do this. I mean, you look at the Forgotten Realms. You have like the Order of the Gauntlet, the Harpers, the Emerald Order, the Red Wizards of Thay, all the, Greyhawk has the Horn Society, Iaz had his Bone Heart, and there was the Knights of the Heart. Cthulhu, or the Call of Cthulhu games, has investigatory orders, different names depending on the time and place, and even like magical orders like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, or Aleister Crowley's Ordo Templi Orientis, I think it's called. So these are examples out there that you already have, all right, that you could sort of draw upon within the RPGs themselves. I look at these things as organizations, groups of people that influence my game in a lot of ways, sort of on a deep background, right? Like what's going on? Why are things happening? Who's really pulling the strings? Okay. I'm going to get into what I do and how I handle them and all that sort of thing. But first, some broad strokes, right? What are these secret societies? What do they want? How do you become a member? What's expected of you if you do become a member? So I figured let me break down a few different types. The first one is your basic cult, religious cult, right? They share similar traits to like social, secret orders and whatnot, but um they're a little bit different because they're mostly about somebody, usually somebody's ego, power, money, sex, wanting influence. And it could be true or it could be not true, right? In real life, just like in the RPG. All right. And they look for followers, people to make money off of or stroke their ego by having so many followers or whatever. They reach out to people who they want to make them feel special, or make you feel like you're called to it, or like from birth or something. You had a grand destiny to be part of these people. They try to control you with like guilt and manipulation, sleep deprivation, breaking up your family, things like that. All right. You could implement that in your RPG in a real basic way. They're going for the poor, the gullible, the vulnerable, those sorts of people who just have nothing else. Right. So you could use cults in that regard. Now, I like to use in my game, warlocks are sort of cult leaders, right? They're not like packed people. They are pre-priesthood cult leaders who like to develop a flock, essentially, of followers, and then you grow the flock, and eventually a priesthood will develop depending on the flock size and the groups, how much worship you have. So that's how I implement that sort of thing. Okay. The next type, I guess, you could have the occult, not cult, C-U-L-T, but the occult, O-C-C-U-L-T. Those groups sort of deal with like the mysteries of the universe. They're like, look at the Dan Brown stuff, right? All the all those novels with the Illuminati and Mary Magdalene and all those sorts of things. They might have assassins like the Dan Brown books. They keep records that are encoded in ciphers, and they have maybe oral traditions, vows of secrecy, and all that sort of thing. What you do with those are up to you. I'll get into what I do with how I deal with them, what I do with mine a little bit later. But let me get into the other couple groups here first. The other main group is like the power control group, the political, people. They try to use whatever influence they have, whether it's money, blackmail, anything like that, to make the world in their own image. Okay. I look at these people as sort of two different types of people who were involved in this. Some just like the hedonism aspect, the debauchery, the power. They can do anything, right? They just, they just like the pleasure of it. And they're usually maybe like in my games, they're like second, third generation, right? The first generation types are more like the cold, hard sociopaths or psychopaths, right? And now there's a slight difference getting into sociopaths and psychopaths. Um, Sociopaths, I guess, are generally tend to be more from environment. But they share the same traits. They're just cold-hearted bastards, essentially. But psychopaths generally are come from the environment, and psychopaths are just born that way, right? Psychopaths keep it better, keep a better life, I guess you could say. They keep their lives together better. Just in terms of traits, these are your typical high level members of any organization that you'll have in your game, and these are great character. This is from the DSM assessment. I think it's number 5, the latest one, DSM assessment book from psychologists use. But these are great traits to use to develop an NPC for your game. I use this all the time just to get an idea of, all right, let me just read this list and figure out if I can take a few here, a few there, and develop a PC personality based on that, or NPC personality based on that. They're glib, they have superficial charm, grandiose sense of self worth. They need a lot of stimulation. Pathological liars, cunning and manipulative, con men, lack of remorse. They have a shallow affect. They can't, put out there. It's where you could like kind of see through it. They're fake. Callous, lack of empathy, parasitic lifestyle, poor behavior controls. That's more the sociopaths. Promiscuous sexual behavior, more sociopaths, behavioral problems, sociopaths. Lack of realistic long-term goals. That could be a sociopath thing, I think, as well. Impulsivity, responsibility, can't accept responsibility. In other words, it's not my fault. It's all their fault, right? Short-term relationships because they can't feel anything. Juvenile delinquents, criminal versatility, things like that. So looking at those traits, you could pretty much figure out the high level members of any Illuminati type organization you have, right? So Eos is Boneheart. That's the type of people. Even though you had people like Keek in there, the crazy ass illusionist, he's more of a sociopath, and some of the higher level ones are pretty much hardcore psychopath types. All right, so now they they're evil by default. That's just the way these people are, right? And so they want power, they want control, which is, they're callous, they don't give a shit about anybody else. So that's sort of what they're all about. And then there's something else, another kind of group. I call them like the keepers of esoteric secrets. There's usually like a lineage of these types of people. Now these would be similar to the occult, but they're the occult orders, but they're slightly different. These groups, they try to keep like one secret or one lineage going. All right, I look at them as like, look at the Druids in Gaul. They passed along an oral tradition of knowledge and wisdom and understanding that keep, for their people, their ancestral knowledge, ancestral heritage, right? Another subset of that would be, not that of the Druids, another group like this would be like the Rosicrucians and Saint Germain, who was always looking for the alchemist stone, the elixir of life, right? They were sort of a single focus thing. Another good example, I think you guys, if you're listening to this, you might be my age, you might remember the Highlander movie, but there was also a Highlander TV show. And in that TV show, they had this group called the Watchers. And they're always watching and cataloging the various immortals killing and fighting each other, who killed who, when, and this and that, right? So that's more of a sort of a special purpose order. You know what I mean? That's how I look at them. I would think that maybe that you probably pick the Jedi would be an occult group, whereas the Sith would be more of an esoteric secret group. Right? That gives you some kind of an understanding of what I'm talking about, why they're different. Now, in practice, what I've seen and what I've done, let me just use Phandalin. Okay, I call Phandalin the Lost Minds of Phandelver. That 5e adventure, I still think is one of the top couple introductory adventures of all time, if not the best. Now, in that adventure, you had a bunch of various people of all the various Forgotten Realms, major organizations, as Enterum and this and that, Order of the Fist, I think, or the Order of the Gauntlet, whatever the hell it was. Basically, you had these organizations all having a representative in this tiny, shitty, tiny little town. Population, what, 100, if, right? You're counting the outlying farms and whatnot. And every organization had their minions in this town, which was off the beaten trail, not even on the main trade route. Why would they do that? I don't know, because it's a plot device, right? And they also had them in there at a very low level recruiting PCs. Now, that didn't make sense to me, right? Because the first question I ask is, who the hell are the PCs to ask? They rescued one cat from a tree or something, right? In the grand scheme of things, um, the way I run it, they must have come to the attention of this organization in some way through some big great deed, right? Or they might be just a good asset, knowingly or not. They might be a good recruit, whether they know it or not. And by that I mean, you work for the right people. You're the kitchen person in a big castle. Boom, you get recruited. You don't even know it because your contact is, whining and dining you. It's a honeypot situation, whatever the case may be. A honeypot is where you have somebody go out and sleep with somebody, pretend they love them just to get their secrets from them. So it might be that sort of thing where these are members of an organization, but they don't even know they're members. Or, let's say it's a PC group where, your 10th level, you just killed a dragon, you've shown your might. Now you have people say, hey, they're a force out there. They might be worthy of recruitment. What do you know about these people, right? So what they're going to do is they're going to check you out. They're going to spy on you. They might send honeypots to PC's way. It might be just the bar wench is actually there to role play out and get some information out of them to sort of get a sense of who they are. They also always try to look for leverage they can use against you if you betray any of their secrets, right? They look for any dark past stuff that can be used against you. There's a vetting process that takes a while. Now I know that you don't have at least in my game, the PCs don't have any sort of deep background. I don't like that. So what they'd be trying to use against them is stuff that they've done throughout the course of the campaign, which leads to my next point is that you don't usually become a member of an organization until you've achieved something big. All right, because why? They're not going to go out and recruit everybody because number one, they're secret. If they go out and recruit anybody they come across who might be a worthy candidate, you're no longer a secret organization. It takes away your power, your luster, your control. Because next thing you know, everybody's a freaking member of something. It doesn't make any sense. It's like going to a college where you have to be a member of a sorority or fraternity. It doesn't make any sense. I'd rather rather go to college and the skull and bones approach where not everybody's something. Okay, so yeah, so basically what they're going to try to do is investigate you. In fact, if you've ever seen this TV series called Billions, it was on Showtime, I think. It's really, really good. It shows how the high powered investment bankers and lawyers and every mover and shaker in the world operates, right? And at some point, one of the stars is going to be running for governor, I believe it was, New York State. And his father knew the fixer and all that sort of thing, and he had to basically turn over every single thing to his father and the fixer and the guy who was going to anoint him and put him in power, just so that they would have something on him, and so that they could prevent any of that information being used against him, so that they could then control him. All right, it was perfect. It was the perfect scenario there. Okay, so now once you have the proper timing of the recruitment, right, you need to sort of introduce the organization to the PCs, right? And the best way to do that is to have them have been behind many, many things that were going on in your campaign all along from the very beginning or nearly the beginning, right? That way, all that surface stuff that the PC has been dealing with all this time has been going on behind the scenes, a whole different thing. Now, this is going to take you a lot of pre-campaign work to get everything in. Otherwise, the PCs will smell like it's like the Lost TV show where they tried to fit a whole lot of crap in there that you knew would never freaking pan out or make any sense. It's going to smell crappy. That's why I couldn't stand Lost. After the second season, I said, "The hell with this crap. I know they're never going to be able to tie this shit together." Anyway, because I smelt the bullshit. I said, "There's no way this is going to make sense in any way, shape, or form." So that's what you need to do. Don't have the PC sniff it out. If you're going to introduce these secret groups, have them designed in advance. Don't tell the PCs who or what they are. Don't use the same standard bullshit ones, the Harpers and blah, blah, blah from the book. Make up your own. All right. Using these principles of, how I've laid out how these organizations work. All right. And then have them doing things behind the scenes, have the whole story of the world, the region, the area you're in, be developing based on what their machinations are and have it manifest in what they see. And then when they finally get into the orders, the organizations or come across them in some way, they can say, "Oh my God, they were behind it all along." And they see, the pictures on the chalkboard with the string, the yarn back and forth, and they can see it all. Right. So, now let's say they do get in some way. All right. Let's say they're approached and, they're, members and whatnot. Once you're in, you have to keep everything a secret. And they're always, always, always going to operate in cells. By that, I mean, my group of either you or you and a few people only report to one person. And that person is a member of a cell that reports up to another person, and so on and so on. There's a layers of defenses, like the mafia does it, right? Like the consigliere. I just watched The Godfather recently. I still can't pronounce that goddamn word. Like the mafia does it. You have layers of protection so that nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows the whole picture in case you get caught. Because honestly, in a world where ESP and magic is used to scry on you, and you have to take special precautions. So you're even more paranoid. This is a huge difference. You are even more selled off. There are even less members and more unknowing pawns. That's the best way to do it. Less real members, more pawns. Okay. But in practice, when it comes down to it, you're going to need a contact. You're going to need somebody who your, PC is going to report to. If you ever seen Watergate, Deep Throat, right? So you're going to be. Well, he wasn't a contact. He wasn't. He was somebody reported to. He was just that sort of a thing. You got to meet in a parking garage or wherever the equivalent is in your RPG and talk to somebody in the shadows and like the X-Files, the smoking man. You need to have all that stuff going on there just to because you don't nobody wants to contact unless you absolutely have to. And in fact, in a world where magic exists, you're gonna have magic message spells to eliminate any contact, right? Now, if you want to have a great example for how this could work in a game, there's a series on TV called The Americans. It was about a Russian deep sleeper cell organization that they implanted people in the United States and basically made it like they were, Americans, hence the name of the show, but they were actually Russian agents and they keep a double life going. And, by day, normal Americans, and by night, they were out there killing people and getting intel and spying on people and this and that. It was an excellent show, but it shows how deep cover cells really operate, right? Um, the other thing you might have to do is have your PCs just be like a free agent of this organization. Once they're sort of indoctrinated in the rules and behaviors, just have them go out there, trust them to do what they got to do, right? Contact them here and there and say, oh, you're in operation, go do this. Otherwise, you out there doing your own thing. Maybe like a Jason Bourne thing, right? I know he was mostly an assassin, but that's something you might use as an example. The Bourne trilogy, the Bourne books or the movies. Now there might be spies too. Not like James Bond. That's just lame shit. You're going to be all diplomats and all diplomatic staff are considered spies. The grand days of the spy game, the James Bond stuff. I don't know that it ever really existed, honestly. Um, if you want something interesting about an old style, I guess you want a sort of a spy or an infiltrator into a culture, Sir Captain Richard Francis Burton. Read the biography of him. He wasn't the actor. He was a hell of an interesting explorer. He's like one of the last great explorers and amazing life story. But he embedded himself into various cultures, mostly Arabic, Islamic cultures, and Indian, Hindu cultures, things like that. So he just got information because he learned the language, he learned the culture, and he fit in, right? So that might be something like a spy you could do, right? Now, as a PC, you could do those individual things, but a PC group, let's say the whole group was members of these organizations. Most PC groups are like, SEAL Team 6, right? They go out there, they deal damage to an enemy group. They might be sent to investigate or retrieve things, then maybe not so much infiltration because of the, skill sets needed. Maybe assassination, though, right? Now, that's assuming all PCs are members of the group. What if they're not? What if all the members aren't members of this organization or these secret orders, right? That's something we're doing in my brother's game. So it's interesting because my guy was the first member. Then when Kurt's other PC died, his next guy became a member. So my brother and I had a secret kind of thing in the background going. And it's easy. The way we play now, it's like Discord. We'll just type messages to each other in Discord. And then when Kurt's guy came in, we had a separate Discord channel so we could like do things in game. It's sign language, but what we're doing is actually typing messages to ourselves. We had a secret thieves can't kind of a thing, right? So that justified how we were communicating in the background while we were talking to the other members of the group who weren't members of this group, right? That sort of thing. They all know that they're members now, that we're members because I spilled the beans the other day. I broke the secrecy of the secret order. But so becomes a question. When do the other members of the group get to know this thing? Or that you're members, right? In my case, it was a matter of the organization that I belonged to was obviously betrayed from within, and I don't know who the hell to trust, but I did know I could trust these PCs. And I still don't know. My brother's going to call me out on this as bullshit, but I still don't know if Kurt's new guy is a member of my order I could trust or not, because he might be playing a deep game on me too. I honestly don't know. I suspect he probably is good, but I don't know. So I'm going to say, you get over there. I'm going to talk to these guys. And I laid out, spilled the beans. I said, I don't know about this guy, but I know you guys aren't members. I could trust you. and here's what's going on. I don't know who the hell to trust in this group that I am actually a member of. And now we got a situation. That's pretty much how we ended the last session. So I sort of triggered my desire to do a video on this, because I can now, because the rest of the members know. um, Anyway, another way to have fun with secret organizations is, a nemesis from other organizations, right? So, you've been messing up somebody else's plans. Somebody else heads a cell in a city that you're in, and you've been out there messing up their plans. And let's say you don't know who the nemesis is, or you do know, but you don't know that they're members of another order, right? So they're sending agents against you. You're trying to deal with them, and it's just like a cat and a mouse game, right? What if you stumble upon a secret organization that you didn't know about before, right? You might have an enemy organization that was behind a whole lot of shit that your own secret order was dealing with all along, right? Another cool thing was maybe, spies infiltrate your order, like my brother's game. You might infiltrate other organizations, right? Your guy or your group, right? So who do you trust, So you might have secret orders within secret orders, right? So you have the Freemasons, which a lot of people are members of, but then you got the higher levels, like the York Rite and the Scottish Rite, which are higher ranks, special ranks within the Freemasons, right? Other ways to have fun is maybe have rumors of these organizations spread far and wide for misinformation purposes by both sides. Like, nobody knows what the real aims and goals of the Harpers are, because there's been so much bullshit spread about them, right? By their enemies or maybe by them. So you don't know who's a member and what they're actually all about until you actually get in, right? Which could lead to a problem, because what if you have a group pretending to be one group but are actually another? Let's say you think you're joining the Harpers, but you're actually joining the Zentrum, right? Then what? Then you're screwed, right? Now, one way to do it too is, what if, like, from birth, you weren't a member, but you later on in life, you find out that one of your relatives was. You find an old diary or a journal that he kept that he shouldn't have kept, or whatever, Or what if you were born into a family that was always a member of an organization, and you're groomed for it from a very young age? I know a kid who did that. He was destined to be a Freemason growing up. His father had to shush him when he started talking about it at age 10 in Boy Scouts, or 12, because he was talking about Freemasons. He was going to be one, and because my father's one, and the father's like, shut up, what the hell up, man. Can't be talking about that. So I always wondered if he ever became a member. I never lost track of him after 5th grade or whatever the hell it was. Yeah, so that's another thing to do. Now, one thing that an organization or order will do for you is that you can get skills or training that's only available from that order. And here's where you get into the game mechanics, right? Maybe you learn a different language. Maybe you learn some infiltration skills. Maybe you I don't know, maybe learn to pick locks, things like that you might become useful to you in the game. You give them something, right? When you join up, maybe a certain style of fighting that gives you a bonus to certain enemies, or whatever the case may be, Yeah, that's where the DM has to get into the game mechanics aspect of it. Now, here's another thing that's kind of odd is, when you have rank of insignia, of marks only known to members, like, marks over doors, or, the old hobo code that people would put to see on posts or whatever near houses to see if people were actually, good people or bad people who would take advantage of you or whatnot. You might have marks and things like that out and about in public. You might have secret handshakes. You might have secret words that you use, but here's something really dumb that Forgotten Realms does with the Zentrum. They have a tattoo of your member, the Zentrum, of like a snake or something, like a flying snake. Well, how stupid is that? All you got to do is just have everybody strip naked to see if they got a flying snake tattooed on their ass. I mean, it's stupid, right? So, that just doesn't make any sense. You don't want to advertise that you're a member or have it easily discernible, because what the hell good is it being a member of a secret group if anybody could just strip you naked and look for the tattoo or the brand or something like that, right? The branding, look at that, where you have the Yellowstone thing, where they brand all the people who are just members of the family, that they're there for life, ride or die people. Look at it that way. But it makes sense for that. You're not a secret group. You're just showing loyalty or something, right? Secret groups, you're not going to be branding yourself. There also might be, besides training, it might be special devices you can get from them. I'm going to talk a little bit later about the couple that I created, and how I stole Tim's idea for Hugo of the healing potion fame and give him a special role. So I'll tell you about that in a little bit. Now, the other thing PCs might be able to do for secret orders is go raise money, adventure to raise money. It's sort of like a tithing thing, right? If you're a member, you get all the resources, training, safe houses, all this sort of thing. You get a level of protection, but you got to pay for it by going out there to do your job. So even if you're not a even if you're not the skullduggery or the skullduggery, or you're not the spy or the assassin, you're just the fundraiser, right? You go out there, you loot shit, you bring it back. Like, well, you say, well, why would I give him half or a portion of anything when I could go do it myself? Well, because you wouldn't hear about the opportunity for that thing, but for the secret order. They're like quest givers, right? Give me the thing, give me the MacGuffin so we can combat this or raise money for that or beat the other side or get it before they do, something like that, right? Um, Now we'll get into my things because it leads into another thing of secret orders at war. All right. That's what I sort of, I don't know, if kind of call specialize in. That's what I focus on in my games. I have, now I'll link to in this video, I talk about pure evil and why things are pure evil in my game, irredeemably so. And I gave as an example in there, I mess with what Forgotten Realms did with the Kraken Society. I just used the old first edition gray box and a couple of the early supplements before they got the second edition. And they have a very brief description of what the Kraken Society is. And I just kind of took the name and changed everything else around it. In that book, I think there were just like some psionic Kraken living in the water, doing things. Thieves stealing. I didn't even know it was dumb. It was just dumb. So I just made the Kraken as essentially somebody who was ostensibly on the surface. His followers were, all insane because they were an ancient eldritch order of beings like Cthulhu, and he's the lone survivor. And he's trying to bring Cthulhu back. All right. So I got to kind of get into Call of Cthulhu a little bit, but I wanted to integrate elements of that into my regular RPG game. So basically the whole Cthulhu thing was a front though, because, and I'll get into this more with my evil video, but then the quick explanation is that the Kraken, he was such an ancient evil, his mindset was so foreign to life in our world. It's a 4 billion year old way of being, not even from this world originally, this plane of existence. Essentially, he looked at the sentient beings as crops. And he harvested the energy when they died, but they had to die only because of something that the Kraken instigated. It was just the psychic web he spread out through the world. So the Kraken Society and the Kraken were basically bring times of peace to grow the crops and then instigate wars all over the place to harvest. And so when they killed each other, all the souls got brought to the Kraken. Now, ostensibly on the surface, the Kraken Society members thought they were trying to bring this back to raise Cthulhu, all this energy, but it was really going to the Kraken himself to let him grow in power and strength. It was all a ruse, right? So that's all it was. Now, to counter that, when the Kraken Society was sort of, in its massive time of strength, there was founded an organization out there which basically had it was called the Arcane Order, and they had people who were just trying to combat it. The whole thing with the Kraken Society is that they were trying to get also artifacts and things of the ancient days to give them power. And all these artifacts that would cause insanity to normal mortals, right? So this is the whole, the Cthulhu insanity thing. I brought the insanity rules a little bit of variation into my own game, and so they got the Arcane Order, who's out there, has a lot of knowledge of stuff, and their base of headquarters is this cloud giant castle, the very first cloud giant castle, and on there they had. It's a huge, miles across thing, and they had their main purpose is knowledge and artifact destruction. They would train people. They have like experimenting, and then would have an insane asylum for members who eventually all went insane. They'd put them in the insane asylum and take care of them until they died. Right. I like the insanity as a factor, a thing that would happen to you from artifacts. I always liked that about Raymond Feist's Midcamia books, where all the ancient Valeru things would make you insane if you came in contact with them over time, like the Moradel, which I think were the equivalent of the dark elves in there, but they were just white, but dark elves in mind. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's what I kind of liked about that. So I had a couple of people in there. There was one guy named Sam Axe, based on that forget that damn TV show where I got him from. And then I had a name I came across in some other book called Victor von Deathkill. They're both high-end members of this group. And they were just like two dudes that get out there, jaded, old, grizzled warriors who were kind of half mad a little bit. And they were kind of retired, but they kept bringing them back into action. And, they introduced the PCs to this order because they're recognizing the PCs some capability because they were all like, 15th level themselves or so. So they said, hey, here's what's really going on in the world. You're good recruits. And, if the PCs said no, they would probably be killed, right? So they fought each other, right? So they were enemies, and they were behind a lot of things going on in the world, and they knew about a lot of other things going on in the world that the PCs didn't know about. Another order. Now, this goes back to the AD&D monster manual where you had the devils. You had Asmodeus as the archdevil, and his daughter was Glacius, I think. She was kind of hot, if I remember right. Take a look at the picture in AD&D monster manual, first edition. He was got a smoke show. But anyway, not as good as a succubus, but a smoke show nonetheless. Everyone else who has the succubus page, I know it's all stuck together, all you guys my age. Anyhow, you had these devils had these spy organizations by Asmodeus run by Glacius. So I said to myself, well, every archdevil, all 9 of them would have their own, or 8 of them, whatever there are, would have their own spy organization. So I had the devils spying on each other with spy organizations. Now, one change I make in my game is that tieflings are born of devils. I call them, devil spawn, or Cambions are born of demons. And so you got the whole blood war going on, right? And you have tieflings versus tieflings for spying operations against other devils, and then you had tieflings versus Cambions because they hate each other because of the blood war, right? So you had this whole thing going on in the background, and then it just made it more interesting, So how do they interact with the other secret societies? And there was a couple other ones in my game, some smaller ones, but that gives you an idea of what I do. I like the war aspect because instantly, once their PCs are a member, they know a bigger picture. They're part of a bigger game, and they're already became targets, right? So it just throw them right into the boiling water there. So right on the outset, okay. There's a couple of things that I found in running, secret organizations, some tips, pitfalls, what not to do. All right. Don't use secret organizations as guardrails or to control the group or to tell your own story that you got in your head. Don't let secret organizations and orders get in the way of your sandbox. For a good game as a DM, you can't be controlling everything that they do, and the organization's needs can't take up all of the group's time or all of the PC who's in that group's time, right? Because if you do that, all you're doing is making players jump through hoops just to fill in your great freaking D&D novel that you're trying to write through the game you're running, right? This goes back to the whole story approach to DMing, where you're trying to tell a story and your players are just as if you're a shitty DM, your players are just pawns in that story. You can't make the organizations be like the noble paladin of the group NPC that the DM controls, trying to make them do what the hell you want them to do. Don't be like that, okay? Don't let your goals and aims for the secret groups take over the game that the players are playing. All right. Another thing is give the players a choice to join, but that's kind of hard, right? Because you can't make them. You can't make a player join within the game. So how do you get them to join something secret if you don't want to reveal its existence to the players? Because what if the player himself says, no, I don't want to join the kind of secret order, but thanks, now I know that it exists. It's like, you just fucked it up, right? So the way my brother did was kind of good. Was with me, we talked about it ahead of time. And he says, hey, I'm going to tell you something about a group, but I'm going to tell you that it exists. I can't tell you shit about it. But if you want to join it, it'll be fun. And you can't tell nobody else about it. But he says, I can't tell you shit until you say yes, and then I'm going to swear to secrecy within games. Like, all right. So I did, and that it was kind of fun, If you do it in game, you have to do it via NPC interactions, right? Which is longer. It's more complicated, right? Because there the risk is they can't say no or else they might be killed, right? Maybe have a magical mind wipe or something like that. But I think the better approach, if you're doing it within the game rather than meta, is to have some NPC or a few NPCs sort of feel them out, right? Role play the whole situation over a long period of time. Let the concept maybe of an agency be introduced and sort of little by little reveal, that there is such an organization. And no, Victor, you don't have to start one with me. I'm in one. Ta-da! Now you can be too. For just a low price of $9.99 a month. Anyway, don't let the other thing too is just like don't let the players, don't let the organizations override the players. Don't let the players rely on the organizations too much, or else these organizations become like the stupidest freaking trope ever in D&D history, which is like introduced in second edition with Elminster, right? This wise old guiding, bullshit asshole. I just wanted to, and any campaign I ever ran Forgotten Realms, he was dead, or I made sure he was dead in a brutal way. I couldn't stand Kelvin, all those assholes. I killed all the main harpers off. No, it sucked. It just became a stupid trope from the latter TSR years through today too. The other thing too, don't normalize these secret orders like, don't make them like they're everywhere and everybody knows about them, because where the hell, what's the fun in being a member of a group that anyone could join? There's no fun in being a member. There's no guilty thrill or secret fun or this is awesome. Nobody knows, if you join the freaking Boy Scouts or the Catholic Church, right? There's no fun in that. But if you're joining a thing that nobody knows about when it's special, that's cool, right? Your PC is a part of a special thing, so that's kind of fun as a player, right? That nobody knows about it. And so, and then when the big reveal comes from to the other PCs, if it ever does come, oh yeah, you remember that group? Yeah, I heard about them. There's like 10 of them or something, and they're just in this village alone. No, that's no fun. Make it secret, make it, so that they're not well known anywhere in the world. In other words, make them up yourself. Don't rely on the ones that exist already. Okay. Now, the other thing is you have to have them, these groups and the PCs have to sort of match in alignment and ethos, or else you're going to have a conflict. Unless the players are into such a kind of a conflict role playing wise, I think, there's some players that like Tim would probably be into that. My brother might be. Some players would hate it. You don't want to join an order that's always telling you you got to do something when it goes against your PCs or your own moral ethos or whatever, or vice versa, right? So that's just not fun. All right. Um, it's hard to get in, right? We described all that. Getting out of it can be kind of hard too, for all the reasons that I was talking about. In terms of they have secret knowledge, they might have to be killed. Can be interesting, but it might take over your game, right? Now you're hunted down like Jason Bourne in the Bourne movies, right? I'd have to join another competing organization just to be free, but it'll cost you. You have to divulge all your secrets and pledge your loyalty, and you're always under suspect because you already broke your oath once. They might just kill you once they find out the information. So you're stuck. You're really screwed, right? If you want any sort of any sort of inspiration besides the Jason Bourne stuff, read those Cthulhu books. They're pretty cool. Any spy novels. What I like. Oh, also there's a RPG Pundit as a book, The Invisible College. I really enjoyed that too. It's good stuff. It's interesting in its own right. I used it when I ran a 1920s Cthulhu Berlin game. There was a really cool book, Berlin in the 20s Cthulhu game, whatever the hell it was. But I used some stuff from that because it really integrated well with that sort of thing. Look at conspiracy theory YouTube channels, like the Y Files. That's awesome. I think Gary from Nerdrotic has a show. He does every so often with a few other guys, but a lot of times they just quote the Y Files guy. So that sort of thing. So that's kind of all I got, guys. Hey, before I let you go though, like and subscribe, please. If you found this valuable, I'm going to be pumping out a lot more videos because I want to get to 5,000. Okay, so like and subscribe, but please comment any other ideas you guys have, any organizations that you've used, how you approach it, what do you do, what if anything I said you thought was wrong or didn't work or whatever, leave a comment. I try to respond to everything I possibly can. All right. Then, so I'm trying, like I said, trying to grow this thing while I'm on vacation and get a really good jump start, get some momentum going here, guys. All right. But thanks for listening. Holy shit. Been 37 minutes. Anyhow, I'll let you go. Thank you very much and have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow with another video.